Welcome to Cosmic Channels. I'm Braden. I'm your host. This is your show. I just host it. We take all your spooky calls about the paranormal, UFO experiences. You've seen some ghosts. You've played with Ouija. You've seen Bigfoot. I want your calls. The lines are open, 1-833-703-0424. Now, little bit of news off the top before we get that all-important first call coming in. Two things. The first thing is next week, April 4th, there will be no Cosmic Channels. I will not be here. I'm going to take a much-needed vacation week, but don't worry. If you're listening to the podcast version of the show, there will be no breaks. There will be podcasts coming out for weeks and weeks. We've got them pre-planned ahead, so do not worry. And we will be back April 11th with Cosmic Channels, recording it live Thursday nights. I'm just be out of the country, a little R&R. So, just let everyone know ahead of time. But we're still looking for that first call, 1-833-703-0424. And listen, if you're nervous, you're like humming and hawing, hey, I've always wanted to call in, but I'm too nervous. You can always write in your story. If you feel more comfortable writing your story, write it down. Shoot me an email at CosmicChannelsPodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to read a story, shoot me a message. I've got tons of people lined up to read fan submissions. You can get on the show. Just like this person, Sab Moon, who's reading this week's fan submission.
Hi, I'm Sab Moon, and today I will be reading a fan submission. Howdy, channelers. My name is Rob. I'm 35 and from Dublin, Republic of Ireland. I've been meaning to write in for a while now because I know you guys love a good tale, so here it goes. I'm not sure if having a sense of spirits or ghosts is actually a thing, but between myself and my mother, we've had maybe 7 or 8 experiences. I'll start with 2 stories from my mother, and I'll just give you the one from me because it could go on a bit. First story. When my mother Julie was about 13 or 14, herself and her best pal Sandra would hang around Johnny Cullen's Hill around the corner from my grandmother's house. The hill was named after the supposed headless horseman who was seen many times traveling back and forth over it. Apparently the only other place outside of Sleepy Hollow named after a headless horseman. At the bottom of the hill there was a church known as the Black Church. I'm not sure why it was called this, to be honest, and it's gone now. Below the church there was a series of underground tunnels and caverns, and this is where my mother and her friend decided to break in one day just to get up to no good, as kids do. The church had been closed a while by then, and they had to climb under a broken wooden gate to get in. Once in, they headed to the back of the church and down into the tunnels. My mother says while down there after a while she needed to go pee really badly, so she told her friend to wait and keep lookout even though there definitely wasn't anyone else around. While midstream, Sandra said, "Hurry up, I hear a noise." With that, instantly from around the corner of one of the connecting tunnels, a very tall man dressed in all black and wearing a black top hat appeared and started walking towards them. My mother pulled up her trousers as quick as she could and ran to Sandra. They both stood there looking at the man, afraid to move because clearly this man was going to be angry they broke in. Maybe an odd caretaker of some kind, they thought. They immediately started apologizing for breaking in and said they'd leave right away, but the man didn't respond. Sandra, being a bit rough and never afraid to speak up, shouted, "Fuck off, you weirdo. We're going, okay?" My mother grabbed her arm to get her attention and to stop her from reacting. Sandra shrugged off my mother's grasp and said to her, "No, I don't care. We're not doing anything wrong. We're leaving now anyway, okay?" Right then, my mother, with tears streaming down her face, muttered, "Sandra, look at his feet. Oh, fuck's sakes, where's his feet?" Sandra looked down, and what they seen wasn't feet, but what looked like horses' hooves. The hooved man took a few steps toward them without making a sound, and so in panic mode they ran as fast from the man in almost pitch black further into the tunnel, sobbing and screaming all the way, and eventually made their way out back into the gardens of the church. My mother told me they didn't speak much about that night until they were in their 20s, but both agreed and knew what they had seen. According to my mother, whoever or whatever it was, it certainly wasn't good. Second story. When my mother was about 15 or 16, she says she can't remember exactly, she hung around in a group of about 5 girls and 5 boys. One of the boys, Paul, who was a little older than the rest, was the one who all the girls were crazy about. He was the tall kid who wore the leather jacket and smoked cigarettes and was known to be a bit of a rebel, a so-called heartthrob according to my mother. Well, one day while walking to the corner shop for milk for her dad, straight after 10 a.m. Mass had finished, she seen Paul standing alone outside the shop, standing with his back to the wall, one leg up on the ground and the other up against the wall, the way he always stood, the way only the coolest guys do, as you know. Well, they chatted for about 10 minutes, and my mother remembers going red in the cheeks and thinking maybe she had a chance to kiss Paul before any of the other girls got a chance. It didn't happen. She was annoyed. She certainly didn't make a move, but they said their see you laters, and she went home with the milk, thinking about Paul the whole time. About 1 or 2 hours later, there was a knock on my mother's door. It was 3 of her girlfriends. This was very unusual because on a Sunday, in Ireland in the early 70s, you wouldn't see your friends. You'd be in for the day and have a family Sunday dinner. The 3 girls were crying hard. One of the girls blurted out, "It's Paul. He's dead. He's fucking dead, Julie. He's dead." My mother looked so confused. "Will you lot fuck off? He's not dead." "Wait, what Paul are you talking about?" "Our Paul, Julie. He drowned in the river." My mother collapsed to the ground, trying to figure it all out. The girls came into the house, and they all sat in the kitchen and cried. The reports came back that Paul had died by drowning while swimming with friends at 10 a.m. on the Sunday morning. My mother spoke to Paul at around 11:30 a.m. One of Paul's friends at the funeral was wearing Paul's leather jacket. Apparently he was wearing it out the night before Paul died and had it the whole time in his bedroom that day. While my mother was talking to Paul's ghost that day, he was wearing that jacket. No one ever believed her, but she says to this day that she's glad she got to have one last chat with Paul, whether he was of this world or not. So my mother has many stories about her experiences, but I'll move on to one of my own. I cannot express how real this was by writing it, and I won't have all the detail, but sure, here's what happened to me. From the age of around 17 to 20, myself and a huge gang of both lads and girls would all meet up in a local pub every Thursday for a good session, and there was a Thursday's night pub quiz on as well, so that was always fun. On this particular night, I remember not really being up for the crake, and I was very aware that I had to go into work a bit earlier than normal. So after 4 pints, I headed off. Now at this point, I want to make it clear that I was not drunk. I mean, come on, I'm Irish and would drink about 8 to 10 pints on a night out. I was being sensible, said my goodbyes, and went to walk home. It was a cold December night, and I remember because it struck me that it was 11:59 p.m. when I entered the park to cut through a shortcut. The park was pitch black and a bit eerie, but I grew up here and played football here all my life, so I felt safe enough that I knew everyone local, so I started walking. I was about a minute in walking along a path that cuts through the park that leads to a bridge over a river and onto a main road. By the way, this is the same river as mentioned earlier that Paul drowned in. Anyway, as I was walking out of the darkness and silence, the loudest, most ear-piercing scream filled the air. It made me jump and gave me instant chills. I looked out ahead of me into the darkness and was thinking, what the fuck was that? With that, something caught my eye. About 20 to 25 meters away on a different path that cuts to the park left to right, I see a girl running right in front of me. Why is she wearing a nightgown? It's winter and this girl is in her nightwear. I stood still, frozen. What the fuck was going on? Who was chasing her? Another scream. This time, for no goddamn reason, I sprinted towards her, not taking my eyes off her. She was moving fast, too fast. I screamed at her, kind of angrily, but this was just to try to release some of the fear in me. She was now going faster than anyone I'd ever seen, her nightgown flailing behind her in the wind. She wasn't running. It looked like she was on a really fast conveyor belt. She's definitely floating or flying or something I can't tell. I get within 20 feet of her, my arms out. I'm screaming. What? I don't know what to say. I reach out, 5 seconds, and I'm grabbing her, and then she's gone. I'm standing alone in the middle of a dark, cold park, sweating, out of breath, and all alone. It hits me what just happened, but I'm so confused and now scared. My friend Patty lives just beyond the park, so I knock on his door. He comes out, and I just started crying. Patty, I don't know what happened. It's all I could say. He goes in, gets his coat, and walks me home. We talk about it on the way home, and Patty leaves me outside my house. To this day, I can recall that night perfectly. It happened. I don't know what it was, but it still frightened the shit out of me. Patty still remarks how when he opened the door to me that I was so pale and shocked, and the first thing he thought was, Rob, you look like you've seen a ghost. How right was he? Just to finish up, I feel I need to say this because there are so many people out there who chase these sort of situations, and some who are just plain crazy. I'm not into ghosts or spend any more time than anyone else thinking about the paranormal. I'm an ordinary Irish bloke who's a married plumber and don't know why so many of these things have happened. So I hope you like these stories, or should I say recollections instead. Love the podcast, lads. Keep doing what you're doing. All the best, Rob. If you've got a story and don't want to call in, you can always send your story to CosmicChannelsPodcast@gmail.com, and you never know who will read it.
Just like that. If you're too nervous to tell a story, and you've been humming and hawing, you're like, hey, I wanna tell it, but I can't. I'm too nervous. Write it in. CosmicChannelsPodcast@gmail.com. You never know who's gonna read it. Sometimes it'll be me. Sometimes it'll be Dan. Sometimes it'll be other fans of the show, and maybe other podcast hosts will read your story live. But we got a caller on the line. On the line, we have Justin from Boise, Idaho. Justin from Boise, Idaho. How's it going tonight?
Good. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Oh, dude, you're the first call tonight, man. It's honestly the most important call because, like, without that first call, I always like to have it dialed in, usually before I start the show, or else I'm just sitting here being like, I hope someone calls me tonight. I hope I get enough calls to put together a show. So I really appreciate you calling in and sharing your story. I know, it. Some people are nervous, so I'm glad you did. What do you got for us tonight?
So I've got a UFO experience.
Yes.
And it was something that it happened in 2013, but it was something that was so monumental that it really kind of changed the direction of my life for the better. Do you want me to just go right into it?
Of course. Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. So I live in Boise. It's the largest city in Idaho, the capital. And it was on Christmas Eve. And we'd had a long day. seeing all the different families. We're the ones who have to drive everywhere. So driving back after a long day, and I'm driving, and I see this light in through the trees, and it's this bright red light. No flashing, no aircraft, nothing stood out to me that said this is a helicopter, a drone, an airplane. So I asked my wife, I'm like, hey, do you see that, right? And she said, yeah, I see it. And I'm watching it, and it looks static. It's not moving. So I pull over, and I get out of the car, and I can kind of stand by the side of the road, and I can see it through the branches, and it's not moving. I'm using the branches as a frame of reference, kind of tracking movement, and it's not moving at all. I'm like, holy shit, like this is something special. So I get in the car, haul ass home, and this may sound really funny, but I have a camcorder sitting on the charger for situations exactly like this.
I love that.
So
I love that.
So I can just walk in the door. So I literally, just as I planned a million times in my head, I run in the door, grab it out of the closet, run outside, hold it up, and I hit record. And I shit you not, this light is kind of over the foothills, over a city park, and it's just this bright red light. And as soon as I hit record, it like a strobing ball of light drops, and it's just blinking, and it just keeps going down, and then it stops. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm getting this on tape. Oh my God. And so I sit there just completely stunned. I'm absolutely speechless. And then the light starts to flash faster. And then before I know it, it shoots straight at the ground faster than a bullet. Like it literally shoots almost the speed of light straight towards the ground. And then I pan back up to the light, and it just kind of like flickers out. And that was the last time I saw it.
So you're saying it dropped when it dropped there, did it drop like a second light dropped out of it?
Yes. So the initial light was red. It dropped a flashing white light, and it kept dropping, and I'm like, oh, it's whatever. And then it stopped, and then it flashed faster. Not like a strobe light, but just kind of like a blinker indicator light, just like flashing faster. And then it started flashing faster. And then when it reached the apex of its tempo, it shot straight down to the ground.
Oh, that is so
and didn't make
weird.
any noise. And then I kind of panned back up to the light, and then the light just kind of flickered a little bit, and then faded completely to nothing. And to this day, my biggest regret about this experience was how shaky the video was with my camcorder, because if I had my phone in my hand, you can hold it relatively still, but I think because I was zoomed in a little bit on it, it's shaky. I wish that I knew somebody that was able to kind of do some image stabilization, because I think it would be
I know a guy.
I know a guy. Well, I would
this guy
love
here.
I'll send you the link, and you can check it out. And the funny thing about
send
it
to me,
is,
because I can stabilize it, no problem. That's easy.
Okay, I would love to see it stabilized, because that is my biggest regret with capturing that once in a lifetime moment, was that it's just a little shaky, and I show it to people, and it's just like, yeah, it's a light, and yeah, it dropped something. I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand. Like, it shot towards the ground. Like, if you slow the video down, it literally, it's like a bullet. Like, nothing we have, our technology does not go that advanced to be able to reach speeds like that.
And not liquefy the occupants of whatever vehicle is taking off at that speed. The other thing is like, it's just like the fact that you even have it for context of like your story be like, I had the wherewithal to film, because like to be honest, I think even if I had my phone and I was witnessing that and had the wherewithal to pull up my phone and film, I would probably be all shaky too, because it's like, you know, you're probably heart's racing, you're so excited at what you're seeing, you know, so I can forgive that, but I definitely want you to send me that video, please, so I can share it with everyone.
And there was other people in Boise that actually filmed it from downtown. So there are all these other corroborating videos of the same event. And it was a very magical thing to have witnessed. And when I say it kind of changed the direction of my life or how I approach ufology, I am never not looking up. It has broken me as a human, because now I'm like, I want more. Now I'm constantly looking up. Now it's just like this thing now where I'm just outside right now looking, you know, it definitely has a way of reprogramming what you pay attention to.
Do you remember what month it was?
It was Christmas Eve, 2013.
Christmas Eve, okay. So it could have been Santa's, what we're saying.
Well, and it's funny because I emailed Micah Hanks early, and he watched it and he's like, you know, it kind of coordinates with a Chinese New Year and maybe it was a lantern, and I'm like,
he hit you up with the old fucking China lantern? Unbelievable.
I know, and I'm like, dude, don't just claim my story here. It dropped a light that shot to the ground like a bullet. Like, Chinese lanterns don't do that.
Well, and for him to just chalk it up to the Chinese New Year, I'm pretty sure the Chinese New Year's in like fucking February. Like,
yeah, but I mean, it was just like, oh man, I had really high hopes that you're like, oh wow, really interesting. Yeah, let's look into it, or you know, anything. But he's just like, yeah, well, probably lantern.
Yeah, January 29th, 2025. But the thing with the lanterns is, like, I mean, part of me, to be honest, to be very fair to these people, and he's not the first person that tries to chalk things up to China lanterns, it makes me question if they've ever seen a Chinese lantern get set off. Because I'm like, they're pretty recognizable. Like, if you know, I lived in Southeast Asia, and there was festivals where, you know, they get sent off in the sky, and it's like, even when there's one, like, they're quite recognizable. I don't think anyone's been like, holy, look at that thing move, baby. Like, you're like, sometimes you can tell they're moving because they're getting carried by the wind or whatever. But
yeah, like, and this thing was completely static. Like, it wasn't moving. And I used the trees as a frame of reference. Like, if it was a lantern, it's gonna raise, it's gonna lower, it's gonna move with the wind, it's not gonna be a static point of light in the sky.
Yeah, and the weird.
So when he said that, I was like, dude, you're not really doing God's work here.
Yeah, or just like
community.
Yeah, so. just check into it a little bit more, I think. But the thing, what I'm curious about is that this thing that drops. You say it drops at a normal rate of speed, like free fall, maybe. Like, I know.
No, it was absolutely controlled.
Absolutely controlled descent, and then it stops.
Like it came down slowly, and then it stopped.
And then it has like a ticking pattern, as if it's charging up, or scanning, or something.
and then as it like builds to a crescendo, when it reached the apex of tempo, it shot down
towards Earth. What in the hell do you think that is? Like, in my head, I'm like, is that some sort of scan or probe, right? That going into Earth or something?
I mean, and that's, I mean, there's nothing else it really could be. You know, I have no idea, but it's just like the level of weirdness.
Is there a body of water in the direction?
It's so foreign to us. No, it's just completely in the foothills.
Right? Weird.
And there's been people that have seen it, and they go out. So I've gone out multiple Christmas Eves after that, hoping to witness it again, hoping that, you know, hey, maybe it'll show back up, and I'll go out with my camcorder and, you know, try and see it. But I haven't seen anything. But there's a bunch of videos on YouTube about, you know, Boise UFO, and Christmas Eve and Christmas, and so I
I'll have to go look. I'm going to do some research, but I'm also going to wait for your email here that you're going to send me, because I definitely want to look at it, stabilize it. I'll slow it right down for you, and we can have a look at it together.
Absolutely. No, I would love to hear your feedback, and
dude, I'm not going to say I look
do,
more UFO videos than anyone. I would be I would be surprised.
That sounds like a challenge. That
right?
sounds like a challenge.
I would be surprised. I would be surprised at if there's people who watch more UFO videos on a daily basis than I do. I've almost gone through every single MUFON report that has a video attached, probably from the last 5 years. That are every single one I've been through.
I contacted MUFON.
Did you?
And,
awesome. Did they send out a field investigator? Nothing?
Well, no. I talked to the field investigator, and he was based out of Texas. And it was funny because after I told him the entire story, he tried to recruit me. He was like, hey man, like you have a really detailed story. Like you know, what do you do for work? Do you wanna come on? We'd love to have you. But then when he told me it doesn't really pay anything.
Yeah, it's free. It's for free, and you have to pay for the course.
That's kind of a tough one.
Because I try to be one, and they're like, you got to pay for the course. I'm like, pay for the course? I fucking know more about UFOs and aliens. I'm a subject matter expert. What are you talking about? I got to do a course. I know what the difference of Starlink is. Don't insult my intelligence. I know what a China lantern is when I see it. I can tell swamp gas from Venus and Gatorade easy. So don't bring that to me. But that's a fascinating story, and they probably wanted to recruit you because it's really important to have these field investigators for them. I mean, it is a non-profit, so yeah, it's free, but it's nice to have these field investigators in these areas so they can go in and talk to people in the local areas, because a lot of times when you talk to someone in person, you're like, well, that guy looks like he's smoking meth, so maybe I won't. How much weight are we going to put behind this one? So it is an important thing for the UFO community, but I wish there was a better way for them to collect the data and get out and talk to people, like especially with MS Teams and Zooms and stuff like that. Like I think we should
for sure
they need to update. But Justin, thank you so much for calling in and sharing
Absolutely.
that UFO story. Please hit me up, CosmicChannelsPodcast @gmail.com. Shoot me that email. Maybe you and I can have a little back and forth. I'll edit that. We'll look at it together, and maybe we can have you back on to show the video to someone in the coming weeks.
Man, I would love that. Yes. Thank you so much for all the work you guys do. Pickle Baby was one of the funniest skits I've ever heard on a podcast.
It's not a skit.
I will never forget the moment that I heard that. You guys are absolute rock stars. I appreciate all you do, and I'll be in touch.
Thank you so much, Justin. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, buddy.
Bye. I love that. I love getting UFO calls, especially ones as detailed as Justin's. He did everything right, reported it to MUFON. He even had a camcorder, the wherewithal to have a camcorder on standby to get it. So hopefully we can get that video, get it stabilized, and then show everyone, and we'll have Justin back to walk us through it kind of frame by frame, and we can all take a look at it together. I think that'd be fun for the show. But the lines are now open. 1-833-703-0424. You got a story, you got a paranormal event, you seen a ghost, 1-833-703-0424. There was someone on hold, and I see they disconnected. So call back. Listen, this show is 100% crowdfunded, sourced by the fans. So every dime we raise, I put right back into the show. So currently we have a bunch of ads kicking off tomorrow. Our big audio ad kicks off April 4th. So hopefully we're seeing big boosts in Cosmic Channel listeners, which will equate to more Cosmic Channel stories. But right now we need to help our UK listeners, because we've had a couple of callers from the UK, and we had our friend, good friend of the show, Stokey J, call in a couple weeks ago, and Stokey J let me know that he was dinged for $82, and we can't have that here on Cosmic Channel. So we're raising money to get a UK extension so they can call toll free as well. But we got a call on the line. Let's go right to the call. Cosmic Channels, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Brother, hey, it's Joe calling from Dallas.
Hey, Joe, what's going on? I think I accidentally pocket dialed you with the Cosmic Channel line earlier.
Yeah, you did. I was actually talking to my wife on the other line. I didn't know what the hell was like. What is it?
Yeah, sorry about that. What it was I saw your voicemail. Are we on speaker here, Joe?
Yeah, I'm at work right now, so I have to be on Bluetooth.
Oh, is it? Okay, it's just a little loud, but you got a story for us tonight?
Yeah, I had my wife and I. There's a whole lot of paranormal shit used to happen. I live in Dallas now. I was in the Army, got out 2011. When I got out, we moved to Florida and lived with my great-grandmother for a little while until I got everything settled in. And there was my family all grew up in Florida, and there was a house that had burned down across the street from my great-grandmother I lived with. And my wife and I, we'd always be interested in the stuff, trying to do the EVP things and stuff like that. And anyway, we're really hadn't been talking about this kind of shit for a while. We're just sitting out back on the porch, on the carport, having a cigarette and drinking some beers on the weekend. And everybody had gone to bed. It's kind of late at night. And the back door going into the kitchen had the glass pane at the top of the door. And I looked over, and it looks like there's a shoulder and head, just black mass shoulder and head over the top of the door window. And I didn't say anything. I was like, am I fucking seeing this for real? Like, it's just plain as day. Like, there's not the corner of my eye, none of that shit. It's just right there, just like looking back at me. And it ducked down real quick, and then it popped back up again, and then I felt my wife jump. And I real quiet, I was like, hey, did you fucking see that? And she's like, yeah, what? I was like, what did you see? She's like, there's a fucking head poking over the door right there. I was like, what the fuck? And about the time we both noticed it, like ducked down and it cut over to the right and just disappeared. And we're like, what the fuck? And yeah, we had been trying to catch. We've done EVP stuff over there. And I mean, like, this is years back. My wife's got it on her old laptop where we had a Sony recorder, and we caught EVPs there. We had. I left you guys another voicemail and told you about those. One of the times my oldest daughter, she's 19 right now. I think she was like 9 at the time, and we're trying to talk to the spirits that we thought were in there from the fire and stuff. And she didn't really, she's 9, she don't really know what's going on. And we're trying to talk, and she farted, and you literally hear like a dude's voice go, it's like this dumb dude's laugh. We're like, are you fucking kidding me right now? We played it back and we heard her fart and heard a fucking dude laugh. Like, what the fuck?
Like a ghost like a ghost appreciating the old.
Oh yeah. Who doesn't laugh at a fucking fart? It's fairly ghosts don't either. What the fuck? Oh man, we literally on the EVP we heard the fucking dude. He laughed at the fart from the other side.
So, just back to this black mass that you saw. So this is you believe that this has something to do with that burned property?
I don't know what else it would be, honestly. I mean, and this was like, I lived there, or I didn't live there personally. This was my great-grandmother we were living with, and my grandmother lived across the street from her on the property where the house burnt down. They built on top of that property.
Now,
they built a new house on top of that property.
But this black mass, you saw it on your property, like so it had ventured over.
Yeah, it was right. It was basically the same. It's the same area right there. The whole same. It's real close, like right across the same little one-lane street.
Oh, okay.
Like within 100 yards of each other, real close.
And it was just peeking at you, and then kind of took off.
Yeah, it was like watching what we were doing. Just, hey, what are these guys doing?
No discernible features, just a black mass.
It was a silhouette of the head and shoulders, clear as day.
And so, just so I'm getting the picture, could there have been more of a body, or like you just it wasn't like floating, or was it there like it's something in the way?
The way it moved and the way it looked like it moved like a body. There could have been more of a body under the part of the window I couldn't see.
Okay, but now, so did you go?
It moved like a human shadow from a head and shoulders. And even when it moved away, it moved really quickly, but it moved in a way like a human would move, like he skirt off to one direction.
Did you go peek around the house, see if you could see anyone running off?
Yeah.
Or anything?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We've never been scared of these kind of things. There's nothing ever been, malicious or anything.
Yeah.
So once we both verified, like I wanted to ask her what she saw before I told her what I did, so I'd make sure it was the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's what she was like. Yeah, she's like, that was a fucking Head and Shoulders. Like there was something was peeking over that bitch.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah, someone in the chat saying Peeping Tom ghost.
Yeah, he's just watching us out there having a beer, smoking a cigarette.
Well, it sounds like from maybe if this is the same apparition that you got laughing at the fart, like maybe it's just like, yeah, like these people look like they have a good time. I used to like to have a good time.
I mean, that's what it felt like to me. Yeah.
Like no malicious feeling at all.
No, it was just everything felt comfortable. Like I've had we moved once I finally got settled in. We moved about this was in the west side of Jacksonville, Florida. And we moved out to close to Alusty, where the Civil War battlefield was, and we had a lot of activity at I can call again, other times, tell you about that.
No, we can get into it now. What was it like? What is that like? Because I mean, that's got a pretty rich history. So you were getting lots of activity
the Alusty
there.
battlefield out there. I actually had something cling on to me where I had neck problems for a long time.
Wow.
And we used to get the problems that I was getting. I finally, I went and saw a medium, and apparently somebody had been lynched or hung on the property, and it latched that onto me in my neck and shoulder. I didn't know why. Just all of a sudden I was having neck and shoulder pain, and it lasted for like 3 or 4 months. And we had been seeing weird things around the house. And even then, it wasn't malicious, but it was like something residual in the air or something that was just like it stuck to me. And the medium I went to said that you might be sensitive too because you feel it. And maybe I had physical pain from it.
Weird. Like I wonder if it was just latched onto you, or if it was actually messing with you physically. Did you ever try to get cleansed or see anyone about getting rid of this thing?
No, I went to the medium. There was actually a medium that was on television in the area we were from in Florida at the time. And what was crazy, when I went to the medium, I actually felt the presence come into the room before she did. And she saw me. It came in from the top left corner of the room, and I looked up real fast. It's like a rush of air, and I looked up there real fast. She's like, you just felt that too, didn't you? I was like, yeah, it's here. It's here now.
Ooh, I don't like that.
Yeah, she's like, you're sensitive to these things, and that's why they're screws.
Well, that was going to be my next question is, have you always been sensitive your whole life?
Yeah, I think so. I've seen when my great-grandfather, my great-grandmother I lived with the first boy I was telling you about where we saw the shadow. He passed away when I was 5, and I was 5 years old. I didn't know any better. And it was about 3 or 4 days, my grandmother, his daughter, she just passed away this last year, God rest her soul. But she had told me, she didn't believe me at the time, but she went back and told me a story I told her about. I saw Granddaddy at the refrigerator in Grandma's old house, my great-grandmother. And this was 3 days after he passed away. And he was a big dude like me, so he's always in the kitchen. I came out as a little kid, and, Granddaddy's at the fridge. It wasn't nothing weird to me because that's usually where he hung out, when I see him at night. I told him after the fact, and she brought it to me because apparently, however many years it was, I was 5, so, I mean, hell, at least 30 years later, she finally brought up, she's like, it was my grandmother, and it was my great-grandfather, so her dad. She was like, yeah, I just seen Daddy at the refrigerator a few nights ago, so I believe you now. So she saw it too, and he was doing the same thing. He was in her refrigerator raiding her shit. So
part of me wonders. I've always kind of wondered with people that are sensitive to these things and have these kind of continual experience. I wonder if it's just whatever these things are, whether spirits or they're lingering energy or whatever. It's like they're grasping on because they know you're aware. So it's like you know, whether it be from fear, like maybe this one from the Civil War house was like it was scared, right? So it latches onto you because it can recognize that you recognize it.
I feel like they have an ear, like they know you have an ear that someone can finally listen to. Is what it feels like.
You got the shine. Right, you got the shine. That's what it is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's just the feeling I get. Like I've never been afraid of any of it. I've had and like even my wife and I, when we were at the place in Alusty on the Civil War ground, she woke me up one night and she called me out into the living room, and it was like I don't know if anybody else has ever been sensitive to this kind of thing, but it was like an electrical storm in the house. Like all my hair was standing up, and like everything had like a sparkle. It was weird as shit, dude. Everything was sparkly, and my skin was tingling. It was like an electricity in the room, and it was just this the happiness it was incredible.
Oh, that's so it's so weird. It's so interesting.
I mean, it was like too much to bear. Like your eyes teared up, your skin got goosebumps everywhere. It felt like, and the best way I can describe it is like static electricity over the whole room, and this happiness feeling. It was crazy, dude.
Huh. That's so odd. I don't. Yeah, it's. I wonder if more people have had that experience. I haven't had too many like similar calls to that, so I'm curious that I'm hoping that this will, someone will hear this and want to call in and share their similar experience.
That was a first and only for me because I've been experiencing stuff like that again since I was like 5 years old, and then. Yeah, that one I almost forgot. Yeah, about that. It was literally like electricity in the room. Even on like a place of sadness like that, there was something in the room. I don't know if it was shortly after my great grandmother that I lived with. She had just passed away when this happened, so I don't know if it was her. She was 94 already, so I mean she had a damn good run, bro.
Oh, that's a Hall of Fame run. 94, that's Hall of Fame, man.
Bro, I used to go in her house and like I'd be mowing her grass and stuff, and I would come inside at 94 years old. Her ass is up on top of a chair, dusting the top of her china cabinet. I was like, hey, you can't be doing that.
Yeah.
Like you fall, it's done. Hey, no.
Hey,
and then sure enough, what got her? She tripped over a damn rug in front of her chair. She got a broken leg and it got infected. At 94, that's what got her.
Hey, you know what though? That's a good run. That's all. You can't be upset with that.
94, shit. Come on now. Yeah, I was happy for
her. Yeah. Hey man, thank you so much for calling in. I hope your call inspires others to call in and share their stories.
Yeah, me too, for sure. Good talking to you.
All right, nice talking to you too, and feel free to call back anytime.
Yeah, will do. Have a good night, brother.
All right, take care.
All right,
bye. Oh, listen, I've UFOs, right to ghosts. Those are some good ghost stories. I mean, it's always weird when you have really sensitive to these things. That god dang alert. It's muted. I've muted it. I have no idea why that alert goes off. Don't like the stream. Like the stream, but well, it is what it is. I will sort that out. As I was saying, we need that UK extension. I can get another number for the UK, so it'll be toll free for the UK listeners. So people like Stokey J want to have a UK day, so they can call in. They can call a special UK number, so they're not getting dinged with some unbelievable international long distance bill. I felt so bad for Stokey J that I covered the cost of his bill. I felt too bad because I was always eliciting UK calls and not realizing that they were coming with heavy price to pay. So stand by, UK listeners. We're working on that goal. We need $141 to get the UK line for the year. I probably won't be able to get the same number. I know their toll-free numbers are, I think, 808 or 803 something, but I was kind of looking at the numbers available. I don't think we'll get the same number, but I'll try to get a similar number, and we can go from that. But if you want to support the show, bunch of easy ways to do it. Streamlabs.com/CosmicChannels/tip. You can jump in and, throw a tip in. to get on the leaderboard. Right now, top of the leaderboard yet again for this month, Bandito, followed by John Jacoby, followed by Invalid ID, circling out the 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much for supporting the show. This show absolutely, this is how we survive and keep the lights on here. So I really appreciate every single person who donates to the show. And if you want to help the show and you're like, hey, I can't afford to help, but I would love to help in some way, shape, or form. Easy. Follow us on social media. Give us a like. Shoot a comment on a video. Or just go to YouTube and just watch our videos on repeat. We're slowly working towards our goal of 3,000 watch hours. I think we're probably over the 500 mark. It takes about a week to update, so I never really know where we're at in real time. But we also, Julissa also, I see, giving a tip. She's up there as well. Thank you, Julissa, for helping keep the lights on at Cosmic Channels. We really appreciate it. But we need a call, 1-833-703-0424. You got a conspiracy you want to talk about, right? You got a story. Your mom's got a story. Your dad's got a story. Call, share it. I want to hear it. Bandito is saying the alert went off again. I liked the stream at the wrong time. There's never a wrong time to like the stream, except when you like it and it makes that loud noise at max volume. And it's the weirdest thing because I have that volume set to absolute 0, so it doesn't make any sense that it's even coming on. I'm at a loss for words. I don't want to turn those off because I like those alerts. I like being able to see when people do these things, but it's it is what it is. But the lines are open, 1-833-703-0424. Come on, I need some calls. Let's go, people. I know there's a couple other people out there listening and, humming and hawing if they want to call in. Last week was a little slow, and then it picked up right till 7:30, which was good. But we need a couple more callers. Come on. I need some more stories. Shadow Ursi, very grateful you decided to keep this going. I'm going to keep going, but we got to keep the calls rolling. If you've been checking out the podcast versions, make sure to give me some feedback because I heavily edit the podcast version. So if you like watching the live streams for the little bit of a personal touch with the chat and stuff, I basically delete all of that for the podcast version to make it a little easier listening. So you're not just hanging around being like, what is he talking about? Who's he talking with? So it's kind of two different feels, I think. The podcast version, I try to make a little more spooky, a little more serious. Whereas, when we're kind of interacting in the chat and stuff, it's a little easier to kind of, let the hair down a little bit. I need to call 1-833-703-0424. Nitsuge208, I think that's Justin. CosmicChannelsPodcast @gmail.com. That's where you can send that video, and I will. It's probably gonna take me a week. I probably won't even get to it till 2 weeks from today when I'm back in the country. But then that'll be. Thank you, Antonio, for liking the stream. Having that massive alert go in my ear, just every single time. I have no idea why that happens. But hey, listen, we're hanging. I'm here to 7 tonight. I gotta run early because I'm starting my vacation. This was kind of the last night, and I was like, you know what? I'm irresponsible. I can definitely squeeze in an hour to take some calls for Cosmic Channels before I get out of here and leave for vacation. The podcast versions of the show. So we are scheduled next week, April 4th. We have the season 8 premiere comes out for the podcast audience. April 11th, we have episode 2 already done and preloaded, ready to go. And on the 18th, we have 8.3 already loaded, ready to go. So this one we're recording tonight is probably going to make the first bit of 8.4. the bonus way of how I've been editing these and kind of making them work, I try to keep it to an hour, a tight hour podcast version. I think that's, and to be honest, that's just what I like listening to. I always find like a nice, around an hour is a good listening time for something to not get sick of it. So I've been doing that. And then, I will clip anything excess of an hour. I always go, it's, the show's going to be under an hour. So any story that clips over, I trim and I put it onto the start of the next one, which is then, got me some bonus stuff to work with. So that idea came about because I was thinking in my head, if there's ever a slow night where we get less calls, it will kind of be absorbed in everything else. And I'm really hoping, because I haven't been running ads these last 2 weeks or last 3 weeks, I can't remember when the last ad ended, because I've been saving them all up because I want to run them all kind of leading up to season 8. So you're going to see some Instagram ads, you'll probably see some Facebook ads, TikTok ads, and then April 4th, our big audio campaign goes live, for anywhere from 50,000 impressions to 18 million impressions, depending on how well the ad performs. So we'll see. We'll see what that does. If it does, maybe we'll see a nice uptick in Cosmic Channels. But we need a call. Hey, someone call in. You got a story to tell. And hold on, I had Noah. I'm gonna say something here. I had Noah call in and say, "Hey, maybe I'll retell a story." No, you're not gonna retell a story because you already did that, my friend. Yeah, that's the cosmic sin, is calling into Cosmic Channels and resharing the story you've already shared on Cosmic Channels, which you've done once. Yeah, it is weird. I hope John Jacoby's okay. It's kind of weird that I haven't received calls from him between every call. I'll have to shoot him a message, make sure he's all good. I hope he's not offended that he is the most cut person from Cosmic Channels. Not because he doesn't have good stories. I love him on the live stream. I usually cut him from the podcast version. I've told him he's the most cut guy. No one's been cut more than John Jacoby from this show. His mom's batting 100%. His mom calls. His mom makes the show every single time. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to. Interesting. I wonder. People get busy. It's hard. It's a badge of honor. Yeah. It's it is. It's his participation trophy that he gets. We love John here on the show. It's fun. And like I said, it's a call-in show. So if you want to call, because I edit it, if you want to call in, you got a question, you concern, go ahead and shoot me a message at 1-833-703-0424. That's easy, right? Don't worry about it. We got 10 more minutes. So if you got a question, you got something you want to ask me about Cosmic Channels or anything, shoot me a message, let me know, and 1-833-703-0424. I have no more stories prepped. I got nothing. I have no prep for these last 10 minutes. So, someone wants to call, you got a question, you got a story, 1-833-703-0424. Or else, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little tempted to end this one early and enjoy my vacation. But I'll give a minute. We got a minute if someone wants to call. Thank you, Kaylin, for liking the stream and blowing my left eardrum. I appreciate that. That's what it's about, Cosmic Channels. I'm going to have to get medical insurance for the hearing loss that I'm going to endure. We got a caller on the line. Let's go to the caller. Cosmic Channels, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, yeah, it's the Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh, yeah.
Coming to you live from the video scope.
Oh, you got the video scopy eye that I'm looking at, huh? Green rises to the crop. What's going on, buddy? Who is this?
Yeah, Mike.
Mike. Hey, buddy. Yep. How's it going?
Long time listener, first time caller.
Right on, man. We appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what are you calling in for? You got a story?
Well, I got a story, and I was wondering. I just kind of jumped on here, but I don't know if you guys covered it at all yet or not.
this whole cargo ship thing.
Oh, dude,
I've seen all
Mothman
the-
2.0,
Oh, right.
right? It's weird because
Everybody's screaming cyber attack. They're slowing down the videos and they're speeding up the videos, trying to find more stuff. I don't know if we've covered this yet or not.
no, we haven't. Let's get into it.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going on. I honestly, I want to believe every conspiracy, but I can't really get behind this one yet. I don't know. I mean, ship definitely like shut off and lost power twice, but I think a ship just hit a bridge, honestly. Unless somebody's got better footage or some glowing red eyes in the distance that I didn't see.
Well, I mean, it'd be interesting if there was Mothman sightings in the lead up. That would be interesting. I mean, obviously terrible tragedy, and kudos to the first responders and the police, because I had what I've heard is that the ship. This is what I've heard secondhand. Mostly all information I spew, secondhand knowledge, very little reading involved. So what I have heard through the grapevine is that they lost power. The power came back on, lost power. So they were like actively knew they were in trouble, and they were radioing and being like, "We're in big trouble heading into this bridge," and there was enough, I guess, police and some first responders made quick efforts to block traffic from entering the bridge before impact. So, limiting the number of lives that may have been lost. But I mean, it's an absolute tragedy. Watching that video it's kind of scary how fast that infrastructure of ours can come crumbling down with something like this, because it doesn't seem like it hits very hard, and then it's just like catastrophic failure.
Oh, dude, it comes apart in pieces.
Yeah, it looks
just
like
straight down.
Yeah, it's like paper mache.
Yeah. And the crazy thing was that that bridge, and now that I'm reading about it, apparently just had an anniversary of its erecting. I should say. I think it was put up in like the 40s.
But it's old bridge.
Like 3 or 4 days ago, like to the date. Like, so it just hit like a milestone anniversary.
Oh, that's...
But I don't like, again, I think I don't know. I want to believe every conspiracy, but I'm not getting behind this one yet.
It's
just and like they say, some people are saying it's it was an attack, it was a cyber attack, but if you're really trying to cause damage, you probably wouldn't have done it at like 1:15 in the morning.
Yeah,
I
mean, like, listen, it cripples the area, I'm sure, like having a bridge go down. But so, like, what's their plan here is to cause traffic jams, right? Like mildly irritate travelers. Like, unless there's something I'm missing with the importance of that bridge. I'm not from the area, so I don't know. But the cyber attack stuff too, because I was like, realistically, there's cameras. Like we have pretty good video footage of this ship the entire time, and like for cyber attack, I'm like, wouldn't the ship have to be fucking like connected to some sort of system for it to be a cyber attack? I'm not going to pretend to be a ship guy like Dan here. I'm not a Navy. I'm not a seaman. All right, but any ship that I've been on has a pilot or a captain that operates the ship, right? Like full throttle ahead, till back. So it's like, if this is some sort of cyber attack, and they're like, okay, well, are we talking about some sort of limited range EMP device going off? Like, would we not see a drone or something firing, some sort of or other lights being affected?
Yeah,
right.
That's
like
the other thing, like something else should have been affected in the area.
I mean, and listen, I love it. I love the conspiracy as much, probably more than the next guy. I love it. Right. If you can get me something that even has a little bit of fucking meat on it, right? I'm like, I'm in. That's the story. This one, I'm like, it just seems like a fucking really shitty fucking thing.
It's just a tragedy.
Happened. Yeah, and there was.
I mean, like I'm over here on like the western side of Maryland, like almost to West Virginia, But I mean, listen, the entire east coast of the country is just ports. Like, all you're gonna do is redirect shit up to New York, Philadelphia, Jersey, Virginia Beach. We just have port after port after port. Like, it's not really crippling the eastern seaboard here.
Right? And like, okay, like now if someone comes out and is like, yeah, well, the longshoremen from the port of Baltimore wanted to start their own union and leave the longshoremen union, and then the bridge breaks and they're out of work and they're all getting fired. Then I'm like, okay, well, hey, I can get a book. But until we have any kind of loose threads, like, it truly looks like just like a real terrible incident. And then like everything that I've seen online and stuff for like goes conspiracy route doesn't have a lot to go on it, where you're like, that doesn't have that grain of truth where you're like, well, shit. Right?
Yeah. I need some kind of cult involvement. I need I need a ghost ship.
Now, if you were going to tell me that P. Diddy commandeered that ship and he was trying to make a way out of the fucking continental United States for a non-extradition country, but he didn't know how to pilot it, there was a struggle ensued, and he crashed into the Baltimore Bridge, I'm on board. Right? Hook, line, and sinker.
Those containers were full of the plastic straws going up to the next Bohemian Grove party.
Yeah. Then I could get it, but it does. I think there's too much of a rush nowadays to get into those things, and to be honest, it's a lot of the reason why we don't like really talking about stuff that's too new in the news that much, and the reason is you don't have enough threads to go on, and a lot of the threads that are there instantly are dead ends. So it's always kind of nice when these things flesh out and you can talk about it, in the past tense and be like, yeah, people were thinking this, but then actually we didn't know this piece of information that didn't come out for months later that, kind of ties back into it. That's when it's a little more fun, because, when you get on the show, you're like, where's a cyber attack? There was chemicals on board, turned the frogs gay. You're like, well, there's nothing to this, right? Like, you're like, they're okay, interesting to see, interesting to speculate about, but we have zero to go on to, like, make that, conspiracy reality.
I've always wondered that about you guys, because I'm like, these guys are tech savvy. Like, you guys you're on the Facebook groups. You're on the, I'm like, they know about the events, and then people in the Theorite group post about, like, current events. I'm like, they always seem to hang back and let the dust settle a little bit, but that makes sense.
Well, and that's the reason why. And it's because, like, we can talk, or then it turns into the thing where you're like, we're talking about the cargo ship every week because, oh, did you hear about the cargo ship? We got this information now, right? And you're like, well, now it's nice to let those things flesh out, and then you can tell the story of this to people who don't know, and then you can pull all the threads together, right, in a cohesive kind of narrative, right, and then look at it objectively after you have all the information. We kind of like doing that more than, every now and then on a live, it's fun to be like, it's the commies.
Of course.
It's a Russia cyber attack it's payback for the mass casualty event they just had, and obviously we're having a proxy war of puppet governments and three-letter agencies.
Yeah. Until you mentioned the gay frogs, I wasn't sure if you were going Alex Jones or Richard Nixon Futurama there.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both.
I'm glad you cleared that up for me.
Like, the more interesting one for me right now, like, that I'm really into is, like, the P. Diddy allegations. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, they got his jet, like, flying to non-extradition countries. People are like, I saw P. Diddy in Florida fucking pacing around. Like, where Diddy at, right? Did he do it?
Yeah, dude's headed to Belize right now.
Yeah. Like, that's kind of interesting because, like, when you kind of, like, if you know anything about, like, if you remember, like, Pac and Biggie, like, those murders, then you're like, you start to hear all this stuff coming out, and you're like, oh, well, was he involved? There's kind of some more dark, shady history there, and then his ties, like, some of the allegations and stuff you've heard coming out, you're like, god damn, you're like, all these things that, and that ties into bigger, like, sex rings and stuff that we've talked about, and people are like, this doesn't happen, it doesn't exist, and then this kind of stuff comes out, and you're like, it makes you kind of take a step back and go, like, even me, where I've been like, okay, I do believe there are these kind of things that we don't know about, and they're happening. They're obviously happening because they're investigated, and people are charged with various ones. We've talked about the ones from the orphanage, and I can't. There's the boys club or whatever. I can't remember. We talked about, but then when I hear stuff like this and the Epstein stuff, I go like, how prevalent is this stuff? And like, how much do we not even realize how bad it is in these kind of industries, right?
Well, and like in my, spare time of investigating on, of course, the greatest news site in the world, Facebook.
Yeah.
I found like this 8-minute documentary that somebody just put out about Diddy a couple weeks ago, right? And they had compiled footage, and they talked about how Usher lived with Diddy for like a year when he was like a minor, and Usher like flat out admits, yeah, that guy introduced me to the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And how more recently, he did the same thing with Justin Bieber.
Well, do you remember that video? Do you see that video where he's like, "Why don't we?"
Bieber, they're standing side by side.
So awkward.
Oh, and he won't look him in the eye, like he's like kind of like cowering away from him.
And he's like, "Why aren't we hanging out? Why do you want to hang out with me anymore?
Yeah.
Why do you want to hang out?"
Yeah.
And you're like, then you hear all these allegations, and you're like, "Oh God, were you fucking?"
It hurts to watch.
Yeah, were you fucking touching the beebs?
I'm not a believer by any means, but I felt bad for the kid.
Me too, man. Like, it kind of like it's and then to hear that like he was using that like sextortion tactics, right? Where he was filming people without their knowledge or setting them up with underage people and filming them and blackmailing them. You're like, oh my God, where did he learn that? Right? Who was he? Like, I mean, it just is so. I mean, again, this is one where I'm gonna like to let the dust settle a little bit, because when you start to look at the music industry and like all of the big names who've kind of gone down in recent history, right? Like you think about R. Kelly and how long it took him to come to justice, and just all these other like weird allegations you've heard over the years, and you're like, well, are they that weird? I think we have to kind of revisit every kind of weird theory we've heard in this industry, and where people have been like, you're crazy. You're like, well.
Yeah, and my biggest thing with it is like, I can't believe it when people act astounded about it. I'm like, Dave Chappelle made a whole skit about the R. Kelly thing like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And there's still people going, oh, I had no idea. Like, well, what did you think? That's why when all that stuff came out with like Marilyn Manson, I was like, well, yeah, he probably did. That's Marilyn Manson.
Oh yeah.
Like, did you not know that's like kind of his shtick? Like,
and the other weird thing is, it's like, with these guys, like all these allegations. Yeah, it's very strange, very concerning, and then it just makes you think, to all these things. Because like, do you remember how 50 Cent has hated P. Diddy forever? He's been like, he's so that dude's so weird. He's into weird shit. Like, to always talk shit about Diddy, literally every chance he's. I've only seen one other human in my life hate another human that bad as 50 Cent hates Diddy, and that's Bret Hart hating Goldberg. Those are the only two like levels of hate that are rival. Right.
It's like every interview, no matter what the topic is.
Yeah.
Also, Bill Goldberg's a horrible human being.
Yeah. Hold on, I just want to check with you once. Have I let you know? Fuck Bill Goldberg. I hate him.
No. Retirement's great. I'm really happy to be here. Bill Goldberg's the worst wrestler in history.
Yeah, that's like 50 Cent with P. Diddy. He's just like, hey 50, how's that wrap up tour going there? How's it last night? He's like, last night of the tour, it's been going great. Also, fuck P. Diddy. That guy's a creep. I hate him. I'm gonna spend all my money making a documentary about him. I'm gonna ruin his career. You're like, wow.
Yeah, and listen, I'm first in line. I'll buy it.
Yeah, oh yeah, me too.
I'll buy it. He says he's gonna donate all the proceeds to the victims. I'm like,
oh,
dude.
Yeah, well, it's terrible. Anyways, hey man, thanks for calling in. I love when people want to call in and shoot the shit about conspiracies and stuff too. It doesn't happen as often, and I'm always open to it. So thank you so much for calling in and shooting the shit about some recent conspiracies.
Yeah, man. Oh, and the best one I just found tonight before I called is now people are connecting Oprah Winfrey in every photo. There's photos of her with Diddy and R. Kelly and Weinstein and all of them.
Well, I mean,
I'm like, they want to bring Oprah down next, and I'm all for it.
Listen, I'm all for it if they were involved. you know what? I could even, like, if they're involved, they need to go down. If they were sextorted, you know, it like that's a fucking shitty thing. Like to be.
Well, we know that
right?
Oprah Winfrey was, behind the direct energy weapon that hit Hawaii.
Yeah, that's why everyone's painted. That's why her and The Rock.
Yeah, they were in cahoots together, and clearly that's why they wanted to push their PR agenda to get more money from us, the taxpayer.
Yeah.
Well,
I've always said, listen, when you go to the grocery store or Walmart or anywhere and they fucking hit you with that, you want to just round this up $5 for the starving, poor, emaciated children and puppies in third world countries that this $5 will save and feed and house them for the next calendar year. Is that okay if we go ahead and tack that onto your bill? And you feel like you're just like, oh my God, like what the guilt? You feel so bad. Do not feel bad to say no. I will implore you to go and reach out to the donation and make a donation yourself, because these motherfuckers take your donation and they turn around and they make a donation with your money and use it as a tax break for themselves. Right?
Right. And you can just, the next step is going to be you're at the checkout line and you're just going to hear Arms of the Angels coming through the scanner. Just tugging at the heart.
Yeah, you're gonna have to hit as you're hitting the 50 buttons to say have you scanned all the reusable bags. You just in the arms. The puppy's gonna come on the screen. Yeah, it's ludicrous. But I you get a tax break. So if you find the charity that you like that donates to all the puppies and the kids and donate straight to them, and they will give you a nice tax receipt for that money that you can directly write off your taxes. If you give it to Walmart or any big chain, they just go, hey, look at us, we're going to give the $100,000 to charity. Meanwhile, it's all of our money that we donated to them, and then they get a $100,000 tax break. It should be criminal. I hate it. Nothing grinds my gears more.
So than that, just tell me what it's actually going towards. When it pops up, I know that kid in Africa's never going to see it. All right, but just at least tell me that I'm funding Fast and Furious 13. Okay?
Yeah.
You can have my 38 cents.
If this is going right to Disney, that's okay too. I just need to know. Yeah. It like nothing grinds my gears more than because I'm like, that's if they give all that money, right? When you round up, who's like, we don't get a look at their books. It's not like they open the books up to the public.
Right.
Right? Yeah, we receive, $1 million in donations, and we donated $1 million. Like, I've never seen that fucking balance sheet. I don't know. I'm just trusting these big corporations, and we all know how well that goes. So,
yeah, man.
Anyways, thank you so much for calling in, getting my blood pressure up. I appreciate that. It's good.
Hell yeah, brother.
You ain't living if you're fucking can't feel your blood flowing through your veins.
Yeah, you got to be fired up about something.
Yeah. All right, man. Take care.
You too. See
Bye. Hey, listen. I fucking love if you got a fucking recent conspiracy you know a little bit about. Chances are I know just as little about it, but I fucking love talking about them. So if you ever have a conspiracy or a theory you wanted to get into, I'm game at Cosmic Channels. That's honestly the niche market of Cosmic Channels we really get into, and I would love to get into it more. But I think that's all she wrote for this episode of Cosmic Channels. I will be off next week. April 4th, I will not be here. There will be no Cosmic Channels, sadly. But do not fear, because Cosmic Channels will be back April 11th. We'll be back in full force. So if you got calls, I want to hear them then. And a big shout out to Ryan for donating to the show. Bandito. Hold on, I just want to open this up. I know Julissa donated in. We're well on the way to getting that UK extension. There's some people still donating through old avenues of donating, which is fine. Hey, however you're donating, that's totally fine. But if you want to get on that leaderboard, you want your tip logged in there, streamlabs.com/cosmicchannels/tip is the way to do that. But huge thank you to Anthony and Julissa as well, getting us closer to that goal. We are probably only about $80 away from that UK line. And then UK listeners, do not call 1-833-703-0424. I cannot afford to reimburse all of you for the unbelievable international charges. But do not fret. Soon we will have that designated UK line for you to call. But that's going to be it for me this week. I'm going on vacation. Thank you so much to everyone for all the support for this show. It's got a small, passionate fan group, and I hope we can grow it together. It's been absolutely awesome doing the show. It's been so much fun. So thank you so much, and we will see you next week. The Cosmic Lines are now closed.